It's just about 15 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock, and you're on the Now Morning Show. Now, our next guest is Miss Earline Parsons, who is the founder of Inner Healing Institute and a domestic violence survivor. Miss Parsons says the pain she experienced led her on a path to personal healing, therapy, and wholeness. And she is actually on the line with us just to talk about how she was able to find peace after surviving, of course, domestic violence. Miss Parsons, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the Now Morning Show.
Good morning, and thank you for having me with you this morning.
Now, Ms. Parsons, I mean, as a domestic violence survivor, I was reading your bio, and one of the things that stood out to me was that you went through this at a really young age in terms of, being a victim of domestic violence and going through your marriage and stuff. I mean, what impact did this have on you at such a young age, and how were you able to kind of, get back on your feet and find healing?
Well, I think you got your material mixed up somewhere because I have never had an incident of domestic violence in my life until 2022.
Oh,
My
wow, so it's
parents lived
recent.
together until death
Okay,
do us part.
right.
Yes. No, I had seen, and I had a very close friend who seemed to have that in every relationship that she had. And I could never understand because she was brilliant, she was educated, and to me, she had everything that was necessary to live a full independent life. But nevertheless, she even passed as circumstances within that whole scenario. But personally, I encountered this in 2022 at a time in my life when I was very vulnerable. And, one of the main things that happened when I realized this was what I was in the midst of was that I just couldn't find myself out. I was angry at myself. I had judged myself. I had blamed myself for being so stupid and finding myself in this situation. But coming to that recognition, realizing where I was and what I was embroiled in, I was able to get myself out using the tools that I use as a advanced process healing practitioner. And yeah, that was what helped me to understand fully what a woman goes through when she gets into that situation and why potentially she stays, especially if she feels she has no support elsewhere. And this whole situation brought me to a place of wanting to, and in the process of now providing a facility where someone in that kind of situation can make a phone call and get help. They can find a safe place to come to, find the necessary counseling that they will need for getting up out of that situation with their children. Yeah, if that
Now,
answers your question.
No, Ms. Parsons, you're saying that it happened in 2022. I mean, we're now in May, so this would have been a very
2020.
recent 2020.
2020. Yeah,
2020.
very recent. Very
What was
recent.
some of the red flags that you saw that kind of led you to understand what kind of situation that you were in?
Well, when communication started to break down, so there was no more talking between us. There was just blame and shameful words and accusations over anything or everything. So I started to not speak. And that would have a negative effect on you because you're not saying something because you want to avoid that confrontation. So it's making you smaller and smaller on your inside and feel less and less capable of getting out of this challenge.
And how were you able to eventually find that self-esteem and, find that courage to leave?
Well, again, it came to a place of violence. And at that point, I knew that this wasn't what I was going to have happen with my life. And so I literally ran from the situation. And I did find support from a couple of friends and members of my family who was willing to be there for me and not make me feel ashamed and worse about what had happened as a result of the decision to enter into that situation. And I began to utilize my process healing tools. Process healing is about inner healing. And when anything like this happens to us, if we approach healing from the outside, it doesn't work permanently. So I literally even wrote a program that I call the Women's Healing Temple, actually documenting the steps that I took from where I was to where I am today,
Ms.
which
Parsons,
would have been. Go ahead.
I wanna just jump in for a second here, and I mean, of course, taking that step would have been a big change and a big step for you. And you said you documented these steps. I'm curious as to what would be that first step that you would encourage survivors or victims to take to become survivors.
Reach out to someone, reach out and tell someone what happened. The problem is most people are ashamed to reach out, are afraid that they will be judged or condemned. So, but you must reach out. You cannot handle it alone. You must reach out. That would be the first step. Find someone that you can trust. If you believe in God, ask God to lead you to that one person that you could trust and tell someone about the situation.
Or
First step.
what would you say to persons who are afraid to reach out to someone because they may have tried it in the past and it backfired on them, or you know they've been ostracized from all their family or their friends, because we've seen lots of circumstances where this has happened. What advice would you give to
Yeah,
them?
yeah, and it happened to me too. And this is why I am providing that space now. So that what can I say? There are people, if you cannot reach out to someone that you are close to, you can call people like Avanel Hector from ITNAC. There are people, organizations where you can call. And I know that if you call the Avi, she will definitely help you. If you call at midnight, 3 o'clock in the morning, you could call me, and there are others like us out here in the NGO community who are doing these things. And I could provide you a couple of names of sisters who would take those calls and with no judgment, open their homes, lives, and the healing facilities for those people.
Now, Ms. Parsons, switching gears a bit, tell us about the Inner Healing Institute and how you're also helping other victims of domestic violence, you know, with their healing process.
Like I said, the Inner Healing Institute is about inner healing, and that started to formulate somewhere around the Black Lives Matter scenario in the world. At the time, I was the head student coach of the MAP Coaching Institute in Texas, and lots of stuff was happening. But I had intended to go out into my own practice anyway. I worked virtually for the institute, and I did start my practice on the side. But I subsequently left the institute and I started the Inner Healing Institute because many of my past students started asking me if I would teach them the now uh, amplified or modified version of process healing, which I had added spirituality to. And I started doing that with them. One of them actually decided, Earline, I want you to go through the whole course with me, putting in your elements of spirituality. I'll pay you. And that's where it started. So the Inner Healing Institute really was formed to do a certification course in heart mind synchronicity, which is a new modality, and it's an approach to healing. Through the Institute, I still serve people in the US, Canada, the UK via Zoom. And I treat with a cadre of issues. You know, process healing, what happens when we are born for the first 7 years of our lives, we receive everything organically. All of the messages is what forms our belief system. So you might have a genius child born into a family who would say derogatory words to them on a continuous basis. By the time that child is 15, they actually believe they're stupid, worthless, etc. And that goes on into adult life. Process healing enables us to go back into the person's life, tap into those memories stored there and neutralize the memories. So even if they may have a memory of the abuse or the words, there's no trauma effect from the effect of the words or the frequency effects of those words. And that person can see themselves, get to understand their abilities, their genius, and flow and thrive from there.
Now,
Yeah.
Ms. Parsons, this sounds very interesting to me because it sounds like you're mixing spirituality with psychology. Is that what's happening?
Well, quantum physics. It's quantum physics and spirituality. It's what it is.
Quantum physics, you
Everything
say?
is quantum physics and spirituality. Yes, that's what it is. And
Very
literally,
interesting.
then, with this type of modality, regardless of how deep the trauma is, the person doesn't need to be in session with me for more than 8 to 10 sessions. And that whole process of wiring of the brain is unwired and rewired for truth. So they come to know their true identity. They get grounded in their spirituality, their divinity. And I tell people, if your God's name is Julie or Juliet, just acknowledge your God and honor your God. And let's begin to develop a relationship with your God. Whether it's Julie, Allah, Jesus, whoever your God is, there's a higher power and you need to be connected to that. So, yes, quantum physics and spirituality is what this modality is about.
Now, Ms. Parsons, again, switching gears. I mean, when we talk about domestic violence, we can't have the conversation without bringing men in. I mean, how can we bring them into the conversation and allow them to understand, some of the things that they're doing?
I think men need to be at the forefront of the conversation because wounded people wound people. And even though we become wounded by our interactions with people, we cannot heal without more positive, loving actions from people. So we need to look at the way we are raising our men. We need to speak to our boys and teach them respect. Sometimes I hear men and boys saying things, and I even ask some of them, didn't you have a mother? Didn't you come from a mother? Is that the way you're speaking about the female element who brought you here? So we need to treat with the men. Men are very traumatized themselves. This COVID situation, lockdown, many men lost their jobs, their masculinity as a result of it, and they don't reach out. Generally, they don't reach out. So we have to find a way to provide a space for men to start talking about their issues. When a man has an abusive mother in his early life, like I said, in the first 7 years of life, what he's learning is that he has to have the upper hand. He can't be conquered by a woman. When he gets into a relationship as an adult, he's perpetually fighting against that woman. And in his subconscious mind, that's his mother. You understand? So the brothers have their own traumas, and it's very deep, it's very real, and the brothers need help too. Okay?
Indeed.
And for us girls, it's easier for us, because us girls, we kind of gravitate eventually to some small group of sisters who will be there for us. But brothers don't have that generally. And I'd like to say that I'm training a few brothers within the Institute presently who would be able to be there for those men that are in crisis as well.
Well, I was just about to ask if men are welcome at the Inner Healing Institute as well, if we have space for them.
Certainly. And I personally have many male clients overseas as well.
And how do we contact you before we go? How do anybody who's interested in getting, the assistance to deal with their trauma and move forward, how can they get onto you?
Sure. You can go to my website, which is www.theinnerhealinginstitute.com. We have a button there that you can press. There's a free 30-minute consultation where you can chat with me about your issue, ask as many questions as you like. And you can also connect with me on my cell phone or at our office number. My cell phone is 380-6552. And our office number always eludes me. I'm going to find it here now. It is 223-5649.
223-5649. Thank you so much, Ms. Earline Parsons, for joining us this morning and for sharing with us. Earline, I'm so sorry. So thank you very much for joining us this morning, and congratulations on your work that you're doing. Please keep it up.
Thank you. Have a great day yourself.
You too.
Bye.
That's Ms. Earline Parsons. She is the founder of Inner Healing Institute, and she's been doing that work to undo the trauma.
Yeah.